Hmm. All right, I'm thinking we're live. I'm thinking we're live. Hello, everyone. A couple minutes late today. But here I am. Here I am. Lori Swanson, CEO and founder of Inspire Tech, also the creator of Career Alchemy Academy, a membership community for women connected to tech at all levels within their careers and also at different points in their careers, meaning they might be on a job search or considering a job search or at some sort of career crossroads and curious about what might be possible for them, what might be a really good next step for them. And it's perfect to think about that particular piece of the people that I work with and where they're at in their career journeys because it goes so well with what I want to talk about today, which is the 3 steps to finding your nonsensical next career move. So what do I mean by that? Um, so quick story, right? A Lori story. You guys are used to that. Um, I have a client who is really, like 25 plus years within the technology space, the last 15 plus years working with a software company. And in that organization, she worked across pretty much every functional area besides software engineering. She was never a software engineer, but across all the functional areas, including product and operations and training and learning and development and all these different functional areas. So she had a lot of good experience. And this company, when she joined, was small but stable, very intermittent sort of um, growth. And she was instrumental in helping them to um, grow into a mid-sized sort of software powerhouse in their industry niche. So she really accomplished a lot of things. And and there was a point, and for her, maybe there's often an inciting incident, right? That sort of has you thinking about making a change in your career. And for me, for example, when I've been owned my own recruiting firm for 25 years, and it was it was successful. I enjoyed it. I was good at it. But as my kids, and it was really helpful at the point when my kids were younger, because I knew what I was doing and I had a team of support that I could keep my business going and at the same time be also actively involved in my community and in my kids' sports and my kids' school and all of those things. So really being able to balance that was such a gift. But then as my kids started to, get ready for college, I could tell that there was something inside of me. The inciting incident was them needing me less, on a daily basis. And I thought, gosh, this is a chance to decide if I wanted to dive back into my recruiting firm, like 2 feet in and really grow it, or do I want to do something different? So I was at a career crossroads. And so for me, that was my inciting incident. It could be an inciting incident, could be the empty nest. It could be you just got off a conversation with your financial advisor and you're like, okay, you're good. You're all set up. You can retire in, 8 years and have a comfortable nest egg to do that. And that could be like, so how do I want to spend those next 8 years, right? Or maybe there's the company is relocating and you can go with them, or maybe you can figure something out virtually. But it also is like, if I didn't go with them, what would I do? What else, might be possible for me? And so with my client, she had, made a decision that it was time to exit her company. She didn't really, wasn't, she was in a position where she could take some time off. She negotiated an exit package. spent some time with her child before they, went off to school, and also spent some time kind of creating her what's next career plan. And so when she came to me, she had a really good list of ideas, both in titles that she could do, like VP of product, VP of operations, um, you know, COO, even, like CEO. Like there's things she had enough, really good experience behind her that she had options like that. She also had options about what industry she was interested in, and also felt she could easily, you know, transfer her skills, the transferable skills that everyone talks about, into these things. So she had a really good list of what I would call um, options that made perfect sense. Made perfect sense. But then when I think about, um, when I'm talking to her and I'm thinking, this really is a typical way that we make a career decision. We look at everything we've done in the past and what we're good at, what we're knowledgeable in, what our education is in, all of that experience. And we were like, okay, all of this makes sense to do this job, this role, this type of industry, these titles, totally makes sense. We also could even ask friends and colleagues and managers and things like, what do you think might be a good next step for me? And they're probably going to give you the same. I did ask my parents. I can tell you, I asked my parents. I was like, I'm thinking about, moving away from recruiting, and what are you thinking? And they're like, why would you do that? You're so good at it and makes good money. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like their vision of what's possible for me was more narrow. It's based off of what they knew, the identity I built up to that point. And and our friends and family and colleagues, like they really are going to more than likely see you continuing to do some very close version of what you've already being, doing. And for me, that looked like things like, well, I'll get to that in a second. So this is all very safe. It's a very safe plan. It helps your brain be calm. Like we're not doing anything wacky here. We're going to, we're gonna build off of what we already have been doing. That makes sense. It's safe. And also because there's a point when you reach a decision that you're ready for something different. And once you reach that decision, you want it to happen like yesterday. And so the fastest path to a change will be following the same path. You just have to take one step. You just start the job search and reach out to these same roles, same types of industries, and you're like, that's a fast path to a change. So again, makes sense, feels safe, feels like now that I've made the decision, I can quickly pivot. But as I was talking to my coaching client, I was thinking to myself, but what about that? That all makes perfect sense, right? But what about that nonsensical part of ourselves? What about that part of us that wants to just sell the house, buy an RV, travel the United States or wherever you're at, seeing all the national parks, right? What about that part of you that just wants to slow down and listen, right? What about that part of you that dreams of just ditching it all and joining an ashram? Okay, maybe that's my dream. I don't know about an ashram, but I could certainly see like going to Bali for an extended period of time and meditating, right? You know, the part that wants to just go to nature and be in a log cabin, right? So what about that part of ourselves? That part of ourself, that sort of nonsensical career part of ourself exists. And when you're at a career crossroads, like we talked about, the kids are launched, or this particular career has run its course, or you're approaching retirement, any of those things, if you find yourself going, I recognize right now that I'm at a career crossroads, or, by choice or circumstance, You might have decided that it's time for a change, or the circumstances that you're um, in are kind of forcing the change. And you're at this crossroads and you're starting to put together, consider what's next for yourself. Um, I would say that you can put together the sensical plan, but don't ignore that sort of nudge. I call it the career nudge, future title of my book, um, inside of you that's nudging you. And it's usually much quieter than the noise you're going to hear outside from your colleagues and from your friends and family, and even from your own head that logically is telling you this is what makes sense, this is where you should go. But what if you did something a little nonsensical? So that's what I want to talk about, the three steps. The three steps of what did I title this book? The nonsensical next step in your career move, your career, or nonsensical next career step, something like that. The three steps, though. We're going to do the three steps. So step number one is more sensical. This is where you do what my client had already done. This is when write down like you're just writing down everything you can think of, all the roles, like the functions you feel really confident that you could take on at another company, the titles that feel like in your wheelhouse, the industries, the size of company, like you're really creating sort of this um next step path that you can all it's the incremental one. We talk about setting big in my get more interviews challenge that I'm doing right now. The first skill I taught them, we talked about setting a big, sort of bold goal. And why we do that, because we can move past what we incrementally already know and into sort of this like let's get crazy space that can reveal so many other opportunities and options that we haven't even considered. And that's why we set these big goals, right? And so when you're in step one, you're kind of doing the incremental goal, the one that's based off what you already know, what you've already done. And that's very fair, because probably you're going to take a lot of that into whatever's next. It just might look slightly different than what logically, your friends and family might say this is the job you should be doing because this is a job you've been doing, right? So that's step one, just writing down. For me, when I was at the crossroads, it made sense that first of all, I could just keep running my recruiting business. I knew how to do that. That made sense. I could go work for another recruiting firm and, have less of the stuff that happens when you're a CEO of a small company and you become the chief, the marketing arm and the finance arm and the operate, like I could let go of all that and just focus on sales and recruitment and helping people find work. So that made sense. I could work for someone else. I also could be a coach, I mean, I've been coaching people through job searches and through negotiations and through once they've landed through their, how you, build new relationships and how you create authority in your new role and how you, lead with confidence and presence. And, like coaching, I've been doing that already in 25 years. I just was under the umbrella of recruiting. And so coaching made sense. I could coach other recruiters. I could coach entrepreneurs. This is my third business right now. I'd already built two businesses. I could coach entrepreneurs. I could coach, I could sell software. I had sold software for 4 years. I could definitely, that was on the list. I could definitely do that. That made sense, right? Also, I put, software engineering because I started my career as a software engineer, but I pretty much could cross that off because first of all, feel zero interest in that for myself, and also I would be terrible at it. So that kind of came off the list pretty quick. And I would say all my friends and family would agree, like, don't put that one on. But the sensical stuff, the stuff that made sense also, even as an entrepreneur, I had to, I had events that I led to bring companies and candidates together. I had like job fairs that I created more than once. I also had created events for other organizations that were sort of adjacent to what I was doing that would help. It's a marketing sort of, help expose me to companies and candidates in who were looking for jobs, and also help them build out monthly tech talks, they were called, and things like that. So events, I could do some events that made, maybe I could do that, start an events company, start a job fair company, who knows? So those were all on my list, step one of what made sense. Now, step two is when you get into the nonsensical part of things. This is when you sort of tell your left brain to put its feet up and take a break. We're not being logical here, and accessing your creative, curious, imaginative right brain. And I believe your expanded self, that expanded consciousness that has all kinds of possibilities out there that are, could be meant for you. And so step two is the nonsensical. So just creating a whole list of all kinds of things, that careers that sound fun, right? And I always say, you can think about current hobbies you have, and that could be like, well, that could be a career path. Write that down. It could also be just dreams you've had for yourself, over time, different things, maybe even at the beginning of, like when you were in college and you were looking at different degrees, and perhaps your parents thought you should do computer science or accounting because you're good with numbers and math and figuring things out, but you would rather have been maybe in theater, not that you've done any theater, but that sounded really fun to you. So you went the more logical path even in college. So what was the other degrees and majors that maybe you considered that still sound appealing to you? Or even further back into childhood, what were the things you did for fun that actually could be a career? So like for me, I love movies, always have. I like writing. And so perhaps becoming a screenwriter. Like now I write blogs, but my nonsensical list was a novelist or a screenwriter, right? Because those are connected to things that I'm an avid reader, an avid movie watcher, and I have never finished, started so many books and screenplays. Well, I did finish a children's book, a series of 4 that I sent out to 1 million people and got 1 million rejections, except for the one that I'm not counting as a rejection that said, we're rejecting you, but we think it's a good idea, and take it to Scholastic, which I did. Then they rejected me. So, but overall, but that book's still there and it's still good, that book series. But overall, what I'm saying is, like as a kid, I I had a little typewriter and I would type out stories and things. So being the nonsensical as a screenwriter or a novelist, right? Again, starting an events company, uh, being a games developer. I'm an avid games player, and I've actually created games for friends' birthdays. And if you're part of my, what do I call it? My if you're on my blog, and go to the website and look under resources and sign up for Inspirations, the career blog. And I generally once a year will make up a game. This year it was women's personal power charades. It's a good one. And we're actually going to be you can find the blog in there, but we're in the process of making it even better and making improving it just slightly. And then we're going to be putting it out there so you can download it. And so, and I've done bingo, and I've done that was charades. I've done bingo. I've done Stinkin' Thinkin', the holiday edition. So, and again, I've done board games. I really want to come up with like a card game that's as good as Uno. That's a dream. So I could be a game developer. That's not a video game, but board and card game developer. Detective, like Nancy Drew was my jam. I would literally tap the walls looking for hidden treasure, because hidden treasure That's why I want to be a detective. I would even want, at one point, wanted to get my scuba diving license so I could search for like sunken ships and find the gold. So these are all on my list, like sunken treasure hunter, right? Uh, detective. Um, uh, we joke around the house that we are the knick-knack family. We have so many, between my husband and myself, so many collections, from baseball cards to his high school beer can collection. Yes, I know. Just all these little collections. And so we've joked about opening up the Museum of Small Collections. So that is on my nonsensical list. Um, uh, just selling stuff, our collections on eBay would be a whole nother career, taking the photos and then packing them and shipping. I'm like, oh my gosh, people who do that, you need it as a full-time job. And then of course the real big dream, rock star. Uh, I have an average at best voice, but that is, so did Bob Dylan. I can still be a rock star. So, anyways, step two is just all these dreams and all these nonsensical career paths that you would have loved to take. And, mine would be like, you might be like, hell no, I won't do any of those, Lori. But they're yours. You have your own list, right? So, step one, all the sensical things you could do. Step two, all the nonsensical things you could do. And then step three is the mashup. So then you start to, and here's where slowing down is really important and kind of getting still, because you don't want to, you can sort of in step three, write down the things that immediately come to mind, but also give yourself, again, give your, what I call your spiritual board of advisors, that expanded self, and your spirit guides and whatever, if you believe in a connection beyond the physical world, tap into that wisdom. Spend a few days, just thinking about it. And you can put your left brain, give it a job. And now its feet have been up, and say, thank you for letting me be super creative here. And now both of you, my whole brain, the creative side, as talking with the left brain, coming up with really cool career ideas that might be possible, right? And so then you start to make a third list of the mashup and what might come to mind. And for me, it absolutely was creating a coaching business that includes a membership, because if you, my recruiting firm was called Lasso, and Lasso's tagline or mission statement, I guess its tagline was bringing people together. And I would say that is a philosophy of mine, that is a yearning of mine, is I want to bring people together in community, supporting each other. That's just always been who I am. That's why events make sense, because I created all the parties. I had parties at my house, and then when we moved, when I was young, like when my parents were out of town, don't tell them. And then even when, we get into college, I was in charge of in my sorority, I was in charge of the social events, because I created all the best events. And then after college, when we moved into Chicago, I organized the Cubs rooftop games. I organized country western dancing at bars. I organized Halloween parties at the Cubby Bear. That's always been who I am. And so, having creating events, so creating this membership community, Career Alchemy Academy, that has that practical, logical part of me, all of the stuff I know from helping people get jobs, negotiate big packages, $1 million packages at times, and also once you're in the job, then what? How do you keep elevating your career at the pace you want, that it's balanced with the cadence of your life, that you're not over hustling, you're hustling just the right amount. The Goldilocks career, I just thought of that. That's really, for me, that's it. I want that Goldilocks career. It's not too hustle, it's not low, boring. It's like got just that right. And so I'm going to be creating a live event. I've got the community, the bringing people together, and I'm going to be creating a live event that's coming up. So stay tuned for that. I have an outline for the Career Nudge, the book. I've got the outline. I got to start putting it on my calendar to work on that and get that out the door for you all. I also have a screenplay idea that's, out there. But as part of my, that's sort of the hobby side, but within what I'm doing now, creating live event, having the membership community, doing private coaching one-on-one, that live event, also creating a travel, which is another passion of mine, but travel to places where spiritual miracles have occurred. Now that's the thing. And I'm going to do that. Right now I'm calling it Joy Journeys, but I think that's silly. I don't like that name so much, but it's what I'm calling it. It's okay, but weird, weird, weird name. And then, one of my other nonsensical things was I always, admired Oprah and her TV show. And so I was like, I want to have a TV show where I interview people. But then in my mashup, I'm like, ooh, a podcast, where I bring people on. And now within Career Alchemy Academy, we're bringing on guests. This month, we're bringing on Catherine Cassidy, who owns a company called Boutique Box. And we're going to talk about dopamine dressing and career, like essential outfits and virtual and, and when you're virtual, when you're in person, and how important what you're wearing is to your building your confidence and changing your energy into the feel good dopamine type of energy. So bringing in those guests and interviewing them is already part of what I'm doing, and then doing more of it maybe on a podcast. We'll see. So anyways, that's the mashup. So I don't want you to like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like what if the bathwater is in the south of France near Lourdes? Okay, again, my dream. But so it's the sensical with the nonsensical, that mashup, is like that could be your, movie from this crossroads of indecision and where to go. That could point you in the right direction, because sometimes the nonsensical makes the most sensible. So that's our LinkedIn Live for today. A little bit longer one. Thank you for hanging in there. But you know how to get a hold of me. Join Career Alchemy Academy. Come on. You want to be part of a community that's supporting each other and helping us when we're at a crossroads, make some sense and nonsense out of it. And there's tools you learn and all kinds of things. So, or if that idea of focused attention just on you, that's private coaching, reach out to me for that as well. But no matter what, next week, I am pretty sure that I'm not at the same time. I could look. Yes, next week we're a little bit later. We're at 2:30 Central Time because I'm doing something, going to an event. If I move LinkedIn Live, it's usually because I'm going to some sort of a networking event or speaking somewhere. So that's it. Next week, 2:30, and that's actually not Wednesday, but February 11th. So 2:30 on a Tuesday. So we change days and times next week. But I hope to see you there. As always, stay inspired and peace out.